Welcome to Gems of Knowledge with your host, David Bellman. Each week, our experts will answer all of your jewelry questions. And now, here's your host, David Bellman.
Hi, this is David Bellman, and welcome to another episode of Gems of Knowledge. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Eric Laker, who is the president and CEO of Lashbrook. Lashbrook is a wedding band company who has developed a spectacular line of wedding bands, taking wedding bands, I think, to a whole new level that I never thought in my life I would ever see, including wedding bands made out of meteorites and made out of wood and made out of the craziest materials you could ever think of. And he's really changed the industry. And so with me, of course, is Alex.
How's it going, everybody?
And Eric. Eric, pleasure to meet you.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Great. Now you're all the way out on the West Coast, correct?
We're in Utah.
In
just
Utah.
outside of Salt Lake City.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. That's fantastic. Well, it's very nice to meet you. And again, spectacular company. You guys do tremendous work. And Alex was the one actually who introduced me to your company when he came to me about, 4 years ago and said, Dad, we got to buy into this wedding band line. And I'm like, oh, come on, another wedding band line. He said, no, this is different. I said, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I've been doing this for 50 years. You don't know. And he was right.
Yeah, that time
Thanks, Alex.
that time I was right.
Yeah, no, he's right most of the time. That's good, and I just got to get used to it. So Alex was the one who advocated for you, and he was 100% correct. And ever since then, we've done a very nice business together. And we want to introduce you to our customers here in New Hampshire, and at the same time, across the country and the world who get to watch this program. And Alex, being the expert, I'm going to let him take the lead on this because he knows your line better than I do. And you can tell us a little bit about I guess we'll start with his background.
Yeah, Eric, it's really exciting to meet you. The company's absolutely amazing. I did come up with a couple questions that I wanted to ask you, but the best place to start is, how did you start the company?
All right. So I'll go back just a little bit farther. I got into the retail side of the business back in '92. Managed a chain store and then built a store with a couple of partners. Sold out of that in '99 and was doing some representing of different jewelry manufacturers around the country and saw an opportunity in titanium wedding bands and launched a line in 2000. So that's really where we got our start. I made a couple of decisions early on that, as it turns out, have formed who we have become. Those decisions were to do everything we could in-house and to allow the customer, the end user, to utilize any capability that we had developed in any way they saw fit. And so that is what has taken us to today, where we're able to do just about anything a customer can come up with.
That's very, very cool. That's absolutely unbelievable. And you really have. You've given the customer the ability to create anything they can dream of with all these different materials. I mean, how long did it take you to start developing more materials? Like, how long did it take you to get into the Damascus steel, the cobalt chrome, the black zirconium, and then the wood and everything else that came along after?
Each new material has come about for different reasons. Some of them have simply been customer demand. We get more and more requests for something that somebody's seeing somewhere online, and so we figure it out and how to do it on more of a mass customization scale. The Damascus is a great example. My brother is a mechanical engineer and worked with us for just a few months back in 2004. He was familiar with Damascus steel and said, we really ought to be making wedding bands in this material. As far as I know, those wedding bands became the first that were wholesaled into the jewelry trade, and Damascus is now huge. Other things have been driven more by demand. If you look through our entire repertoire, probably half of it we innovated in the industry, the other half we expanded in the industry.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the wood inlays, because I have to be honest with you. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I can't even imagine that you can bend wood into a circle the way you have, which, again, I'm no expert when it comes to carpentry or woods by any stretch, but I know that That's not an easy thing to do. And, to make it so that it's wearable for a lifetime. I mean, can you just go into a little bit about the process of how that's done?
You bet. So we don't bend it. We're starting with a solid chunk and machining those tiny pieces out of that, and then inlaying them in the ring. Stepping back a bit, the ring or the wood block is submitted to exceptionally high pressure and filled with a resin. And so what we start out with is a hardwood, but wood is porous. What we get to before we start to make the ring is a non-porous material because it's been completely impregnated with a very hard resin. We then machine the wood piece out, marry it into the piece it's going into, whether that's as an inside sleeve, where it just simply slips inside another ring, or if it's an inlay, we're putting a two-part ring together around it, and then finish it within the piece, get it polished and everything, and then put another layer of resin over it that is UV cured and almost bulletproof.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, the technology that goes into that, I mean, that makes a lot of sense because I knew it had to be complicated. I knew it wasn't something,
Wasn't a simple process.
Yeah, you just carve it out and pop it in there. But because, let's face it, your hands are going to get wet, right?
Right.
And you're going to get into things and you're going to cause this all, the banging around that running bands go through. I mean, it has to be, like you say, bulletproof. It has to be super durable. And you've developed, obviously, a process to do that. And maintain the beauty of the wood.
Right.
In fact, I think we did a ring, right, where it was a piece of wood that somebody had of their own.
Yeah, the customer brought the driftwood from the beach that he proposed on, and we actually inlaid it as an inner sleeve inside the ring. It was very, very cool.
Yes.
No, we love it when we get to do things like that.
And then tell me a little bit, I'm curious about the meteorite wedding bands that you do, which I think are very cool because I've always been I have a collection of meteorites. I know they come from all over the world, different areas where they've hit the earth and they've been collected, and it's very, very dense, hard material, and not. I don't know how you manipulate it. I mean, do you melt it down and then rework it? How does that work? That's fascinating to me.
So the meteorite may be the most complex overall process. And part of that, comes right down to even the sourcing of the material. Mm-hmm. The material that we use is called gibbon. It fell in Namibia. We don't know when. The material itself is carbon dated at over 4 billion years. We know that it was first seen by Europeans in the 1830s, and the natives of the area were using it as tools. Mm-hmm. In fact, I have a 50-pound chunk that has one side that's completely flat, because it had been used as an anvil for centuries.
Wow.
So it's really neat. It's about 92% iron. So when you talk about it being solid and heavy, it is solid and heavy. The thing that makes it particularly special for jewelry is what's called a Widmanstatten pattern. And in this case, it's a fine octahedrite that gives an alternating crisscross pattern of very fine lines. Mm-hmm. And so when we acid etch it, this pattern is relieved and it just looks amazing. Other meteorites have different look different, have much larger patterns or no pattern at all. And so they're not really optimal for a small piece. To make the product, we're buying these chunks, most of which, great-grandpa or grandpa collected in the early 1900s. And over time, the item went from being in the den to being in a corner of the garage as, grandpa's house or dad's house got cleaned out after he passed on. And somebody's looking at it one day and looks and finds out on eBay that it's worth $50,000. Yep. And so all of a sudden it's in the market again. We will eventually run out. It's a very rare material. Mm-hmm. We have literally one of the largest collections in the world at this point, and so we'll last a while. But we have a 10,000-pound machine that slices meteorite 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
What we're doing is slicing it and then and then cutting it into little strips, and the strip gets wrapped around a ring. So when you see the meteorite ring, if you look very closely, you should be able to find one or two seams. Originally we would do it in a solid piece. We'd machine out a circle, but we were wasting just literally 80 to 90% of the material to do that. And so now we have this machine. It's called a wire EDM, and it slices with an electrical current that runs through a 10,000th of an inch wire, so that we've cut the waste by about 90%, and the machine paid for itself very quickly.
That's insane. I mean, and to find a machine that would do that type of work for you, and then, I mean, I can only just imagine everything that has gone into doing this. And I remember going to the Tucson Gem Show and finding a lot of meteorite material there. So if you haven't been, that's always a good source for you right there. Because I remember going and seeing some of these guys, and they had collections from all over the world, different pockets, from Russia to I think Antarctica. I mean, there's material everywhere. It's just incredible. Yeah. Yeah.
No, there are a lot of different meteorites, and the thing that is great is that they're all cool. Yep. They all came from space.
It's very interesting. So you're probably, unlike most jewelry manufacturers, you probably have an engineering staff.
Yeah, I mentioned my brother. He has come back. He was gone for 13 or 14 years. Ran a company that actually faced a lot of the same challenges that we do. They did a lot of custom manufacturing of architectural panels. Really, really neat stuff. But they were constantly having to figure out new ways to produce what the customer wanted. And so he got some great experience, now runs production with us. Like I said, he's a mechanical engineer in MBA, far, far smarter than I am. And then things that we can't figure out internally, we're constantly getting additional help outside, and then innovating. We have an aerospace machine shop. And it's not a small machine shop. We end up getting visits from all the machine tool manufacturers from all over the world, because we're doing things that are surprising to those that use those machines typically.
That's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah,
and that's actually something
right?
we'd love to see. We should go out there and visit sometime.
Yeah,
you should come for a tour.
Yeah, for sure, because this is the kind of thing that we're very interested in. We love the jewelry industry. We like the manufacturing, and we like, because we do a lot of our own manufacturing here, gemstone jewelry. But what you're doing is like, space age, cutting edge, SpaceX kind of stuff.
It's super fun, and it's super amazing to see. When you order a ring and you sort of don't know what it's going to look like, and you guys send the ring in, and it's just absolutely amazing. Not only does it blow us away, but it absolutely blows our customers away, who are always more than happy when they get your rings. How did you come up with the name Lashbrook?
So it's a funny story. I'm the oldest of 9 kids.
Wow.
And my parents now, topped out at 49 grandchildren. Wow. And each time a male child was on the way, my mother would suggest the name Lashbrook. Lashbrook was my 3rd great grandfather, came across the plains back in the 1850s and settled in northern Utah. Found out recently that he had actually apprenticed as a silversmith in England before immigrating to the United States. So I guess we're a 6th generation jeweler now.
Something.
That's so cool.
But anyway, every time she would suggest this name, and so we decided if we put the name on a building, maybe she would stop being so disappointed that she didn't have a grandson named Lashbrook. So we named it after Grandpa Lashbrook.
That's fantastic. What a great story that is. What a great way to get a fantastic name for a company.
Now, were you in the retail jewelry business prior to manufacturing wedding bands? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you did the right thing. You got out of retail. It can be challenging. Not that what you're doing isn't, but I think what you're doing also, it sounds, just talking to you, that you're enjoying what you're doing. Tell me about the staff. How many people do you have working? It sounds like a rather large operation.
So I believe we hit 125 people this last month.
Wow. I'm impressed. Wow.
we're hiring constantly. One of the problems that we have, honestly, is that Utah has an amazing economy, and there's a lot of competition for entry-level workers.
Yep.
One of the things that we've learned over time is that entry level is what we need. It's very hard for us to retrain someone that has become accustomed to working just in precious metals. Mm-hmm. There's so much muscle memory that's involved with the hand tools and the buffing and everything else, that getting someone to the point where they are able to work in the cobalt chrome and the Damascus steel as well as the platinum and the gold, it has proven almost impossible. We've had 2 or 3 jewelers over the years that have made the transition. We've tried with 15 to 20.
Wow.
So we start somebody at a polisher doing basic finish work, and we have now 5 or 6 people setting stones that started out with us working for $14 an hour polishing.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge, and frankly, one of the biggest challenges we've got is finding enough good people.
Yeah, well, you hear that a lot these days. I mean, the economy is doing well, and I have a lot of friends that are in the computer and software industry, and they're having the same issues that you are, just trying to bring in the right people that can do and get the job done. And it's a lot of work. And in your case, they've got to be trained. I mean, how long does it take for someone? I mean, I know in our jewelry industry, it takes years really to develop the techniques really that you need, because it is all done by hand in order to take a wedding band from zero to a finished piece. So it takes a lot of years for these people. So how long have you been in business? That's another question I wanted to ask.
As we hire, we're looking at 6 to 8 months before an employee becomes actually profitable. And because of the nature of the people that we're hiring with the entry-level positions, often they're students and so forth, and they have other plans. Mm-hmm. And so it is a challenge. We're constant turnover. We're working very hard to be a great place to work, and so that's helping. But it really is, like I said, one of our biggest challenges.
Well, you got to put in some pinball machines, some tennis. What else? Some table tennis and what? Free food,
napping nooks, the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what they expect these days. We have a few minutes left, and I always like to give people an opportunity to. We've asked you a ton of questions, but tell us: are there certain things that we didn't touch on, or aspects of your company, or in the way that you do business that you'd like the viewers to know about Lashbrook? And I mean, obviously, you've come a long way in the last 18 years. You're obviously cutting edge and doing things that really nobody has ever done before. What would you like to say? I'd want to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about what your feelings are.
All right. Well, let me just kind of give you my spiel. Okay.
Yep.
So
the elevator pitch.
Yeah. As I said, we've spent 18 years innovating and always bringing every process in-house so that we can do just about anything the customer wants. The big disconnect for us, the big challenge has always been that we're relying on you to communicate to each customer what can be done. And I'll be frank here, and obviously you're showing that you're helping us blaze new trails. But in general, the industry doesn't care a whole bunch about men's bands. And part of the reason for that is that guys don't seem to care too much about men's bands. You ask, after you've closed the sale with her, that she's picked out something gorgeous that she's just nearly in tears over, and you ask him what he's thinking of, and he says, it doesn't matter a whole bunch. I just want something simple, right?
Yep.
And so we have this chicken and egg thing. I don't know where it started, and it doesn't really matter. But what we have learned is that guys, given the opportunity, will care. And she definitely cares. And given the opportunity to help create something for him that will be meaningful to him, that he'll love, that he'll show off, it means the world to her. So anyway, we've had this disconnect. Well, we've now fixed that. And that's with our new website, lashbrookdesigns.com. And at lashbrookdesigns.com, a customer can sit down and can design, at this point, one of over 10 billion rings.
Wow.
And get price, and a picture.
Wow.
It's tremendous. There literally is nothing like it in the world. We've looked in industries all over. Our web developers have looked for some clue as to ways to help come up with shortcuts to do what we've done, because they didn't want to have to invent everything from scratch. There's nothing out there like it. And as we continue to add features, we've got a feature set that will go live in the next couple of weeks that will add 2 or 3 billion more options.
That's absolutely amazing.
I would expect that over the next couple of years, we'll exceed 1 trillion.
Wow.
And it seems insane, but it's high school math. It's combinations and permutations. When you add these 20 options for a specific feature set that can go on 70% of the rings, you get billions more rings.
Wow.
And so really that's what we're trying to bring to the industry and to the market, is a renewed level of excitement about what the men's ring represents, and we're doing that by letting him be involved in its creation.
Wow. I have to tell you, I can sympathize with what you're going through, because what you're basically doing is you're changing people's habits.
Right.
And that is probably one of the most difficult things to do. Because you're absolutely right. That's exactly what happens in our store, or I should say used to happen in our store, where people would come in, right, and say, oh, yeah, let me just pick something really quick, plain.
But guys are using it now. I have guys, they come in, a guy 2 weeks ago brought in his laptop. He didn't even want to give me the design number. He goes, no, this is what I built. And he just hands me his computer.
Oh,
that's great.
So they love it. They love the whole being able to interact with it. And the images that you use are so clear that the customer really does, even if they don't get to see the physical ring, if they come into our store and see the materials that the ring will be made of, they're very happy with that because the images are so clear.
Yep. Eric,
Exactly.
I can't thank you enough. We've gone beyond our time, and we know when it comes to the internet, time is everything, and we want to wrap things up. But I just want to thank you very much for being on our show, and I'm sure people who watch it will benefit greatly from what you've discussed, and they'll get a better insight into your company and visit Lashbrook. It's lashbrookdesigns.com, correct?
Correct.
Yep. We'll make sure that we put that up on the screen so that everyone can go out and check out all these new design opportunities that they have.
Yeah, thank you so much for sitting down with us. I'm very excited about it. It was really a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you back on in another couple months, and we'll see how you're doing and see what the next cool thing is.
That sounds great. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And to our viewers, thank you for watching us. We always enjoy having you on our watching our show. Alex did a great job. And look forward to another exciting episode next week. Take care.